Hello collectors, welcome back to Star Wars Collected. I'm Jonathan. I'm actually uploading a video as I'm recording this video, so I hope you're subscribed because otherwise there's no way to keep up with the amount of content that I have coming out. Today's video though is going to be a continuation of the series that we've been working on, missing hot toys, things that I wish that they would make, things that maybe wouldn't always make sense, but I think at least some of them would make some money, so I'm not quite sure why they haven't made them. Today the series we're going to be focusing on is Solo. Now Solo kind of occupies this weird space within the Star Wars, especially movies. When it came out, it was just a few months after The Last Jedi, which was very divisive. The fact that it was so close to The Last Jedi, it had only been 5 or 6 months since the last movie had come out. It was also following an Avengers film about a month before it, and they had not been doing any marketing before that. And of course, behind the scenes, it went through a lot of ups and downs and things like that. So unfortunately, I feel like Solo did not get a fair shake at the box office. But I think if you watch the movie now, and a lot of people have discovered it after the fact, people like it. I have a coworker of mine who was like, I watched Solo and I thought it was great. I don't get what all the complaints were about. And, I really don't know if there were really that many complaints once people saw it, but it's just sort of a victim of timing. So anyway, Hot Toys did make a few figures from Solo. They made a Han Solo, in both a normal version and a deluxe version. The deluxe version had this big furry coat with him, very cool. And then they made Darth Maul, which you've seen me unbox on this channel. And they also made Han Solo as a mud trooper, which you've also seen me unbox on this channel. And then they also made a patrol trooper, which is a very cool looking trooper. But that's it. They missed a lot of characters out there, so we're going to go ahead and break through every single one of those. Again, somewhat in order of kind of least likely to ones that would be just absolute instant buys for me. So let's start off our list. With Solo only being a one-off movie, we're not going to have as many characters to choose from like we have in our previous videos, ones where we went through the entire prequel trilogy and ones where we went through the entire Clone Wars series. So I'm going to actually start off with a couple honorable mentions, things that I don't actually think that they really could make or should make, but we got to throw them out there because they still look really cool. If they did make them, they just probably wouldn't sell. So first off, we're going to start with Dryden Voss. I actually met Paul Bettany at Star Wars Celebration in Chicago. He's the kind of the main villain of the film, so it's a little odd that we don't have the main antagonist from the film in a Hot Toys figure. When you think about Hot Toys in general, you have your Darth Vader and you have your Luke. You have Moff Gideon and you have the Mandalorian. They tend to make the adversary of it, but in this situation they didn't do that. Dryden Voss would be cool. It could come with its with his little double-sided blade things. And when I think about Dryden Voss, I think about his yacht and I think about his collection room. And the collection room has so many cool little antiquities everywhere. So I don't really know what that would look like, but maybe he has like a table and then a bunch of antiquities that you can put on that. There's even some stuff in there from Indiana Jones, which is really cool for people who are just general Lucasfilm fans. The next honorable mention we're going to throw out there is Val. Val, wasn't in there maybe as long as we could kind of hoped she would be, but Thaddeus Newton did a really cool job as that character. She was a unique character that we've seen before. If you actually look at her costume, it is a very cool costume. She has this kind of fur collar that comes down here, and she has some wires that come around, and she has some ropes down by her belt. So she's pretty cool, and she also comes with this really cool, she could really come with this really cool grappling gun type system. It has this large drum that sits on top of what kind of looks like a rifle. So, very unlikely that we'd ever see this character. She didn't make that big of an impact, unfortunately, in the story, but she would be a cool character to see. Moving our way through sort of Solo's crew here, Rio Durant. Now, very cool looking character. We haven't really seen anything else like that in Star Wars, especially not live action. And anytime Jon Favreau is behind the character, of course, lending his voice to Rio Durant, it makes me want to like that character a little bit more, want to love that character a little bit more. So just like in our Clone Wars video, how I'm kind of a little bit surprised that there is not a pre-Vizsla Hot Toys. Rio Durant would kind of make a lot of sense, but I just don't think it would sell. But man, it would look really cool, especially if they did a fur treatment on it and things like that. I imagine, he had a rifle of his own, a gun that he was kind of shooting off a Marauder with. But what would be really cool, actually, it would be like a pilot seat for him to be displayed in. So again, it's an honorable mention, but I think it'd be a cool character. And the last honorable mention actually pains me a little bit to put on here, but Tobias Beckett. Woody Harrelson's an amazing actor. He's always fun. He always commits to his characters, and he has a pretty cool get up. He's got and he's Han Solo's mentor basically, and he makes it through 95% of the film. So you would kind of think that maybe this would do better, but I don't see people ever talking about Tobias Beckett. You know, his story's kind of happened and done, and I just don't think a collectible of his would sell all that well. But if they really wanted to do it, or if I really wanted to do it, what would be actually really cool would just be if you were to just take the Mud Trooper that you already have for Han Solo and put a Woody Harrelson head on it, and add, you know, you wouldn't even have to do the full get up of helmet, you know, do the little cap, and do his sort of like, you know, his Russian army duster or whatever you want to call it, his rain slick type thing over top of it. And I think that would look amazing, and then you'd be able to reuse some parts that you've already used. You could even kind of use the same logic for putting out a Val. You know, use one of your female bodies that you already have, you know, make a Val head sculpt, because of course she was a Mud Trooper as well, but you know, when I think of Val, I don't think of her in that costume. I think of it in her normal costume. But Tobias Beckett would be really cool. He could come with a disassembling DL-44 carbine rifle. I think it was really cool in the movie to see how this was actually part of a larger piece with a full front and back on it. And then it just sort of comes down to this. And I think that would be cool to see. Okay, enough of the honorable mentions. Let's get into the meat and potatoes, things that I actually think that they could make, could sell, and would sell decently well. We're gonna actually start off first with Qi'ra. I love the Qi'ra character. Of all the characters that we saw in Solo, you know, she was one of the new ones. But I want to see where her story goes. If you're following along in the comics right now, you do get, you know, we get some idea of where her story is going right now. But Qi'ra is just a really cool character. Emilia Clarke has shown interest in returning to that character. And I would love to see that in some kind of Crimson Dawn series, her and Maul, or you know, anybody, I think would be a super cool series. But anyway, back to a hot toy. You know, she has at least two really cool iconic looks from that. She has a couple more looks in general. She has a teenager look that I don't think is iconic, but she has this one that's in a black dress. Super simple, but she just looks fantastic in it. It's a perfect costume to sort of reintroduce that character as someone who's changed dramatically and is this new person, and you know, at least has the illusion of power and luxury. So I think that's a really cool one. And then she has that necklace, which actually came with the Hot Toys Mall piece too, which is pretty cool. But then on the other one that I think is really cool is when they go to Kessel, she has this sort of like white motorcycle jacket thing, and then this really cool black and red cape over top. So that would also be a really cool look, and that would be a little bit more of an action type look, and also, you know, speak a little bit more to, you know, Hot Toys in general, how they're really good at taking all these little details and making it into something. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if someday we don't see more Qi'ra stuff, or at least more Qi'ra in general, then that will generate more Qi'ra stuff. So I would love to see a Qi'ra in Hot Toys sooner or later, but I think she has some really good looks out of Solo, so I'd love to see some of her looks from Solo. What do we have here? Of course, the next person has to be Lando. I remember the casting coming out for this. It was absolute perfect casting. It's who I had in mind in my head. You know, throughout the movie, he does have a couple different looks, but the yellow shirt with the scarf and the cape, I think would be fantastic looking. That yellow shirt would really pop on a shelf next to the collectibles. I'm tempted to just give him, like, as one of his accessories, this like coat rack or like garment rack like you see at a fashion shoot, and it's just full of capes. You know, there's like 15 capes. That's all he comes with. So I'm tempted to do that, but he would definitely need to come with his beautiful pistol. Maybe not quite as utilitarian as the DL-44, but if you look, especially through some of the visual dictionaries, that pistol that he has is gorgeous. It has pearl and stuff like that laid into it. And then also, he needs to come with some sabacc cards and some of those credits that were on the table when they were playing you know, sabacc in that large group in that big room in that sort of like hunting lodge. So I'm really surprised they didn't make Lando. I know they make other Lando figures, or at least Sideshow makes other Lando figures. So I would love to see a Lando from this movie. One of the joys of a new Star Wars film coming out, or a new Star Wars series coming out, are seeing the new troopers. And Solo did not disappoint. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Hot Toys did decide to make the Patrol Trooper, which is an odd choice because even though it is very cool, it is probably in there for the least amount of time of any of the new troopers that they introduced. Now, they also made a Mud Trooper, but they kind of really made a Han Solo in the Mud Trooper outfit. Not complaining, that's great. You want a Mud Trooper, just cover up his face. You want a Solo Trooper, or you want a Solo figure, you show him that way. But there's some really cool ones, and I think the coolest one of the two is the Range Trooper. I just finished a Range Trooper helmet myself. I think it's a really cool look. I love their boots. I looked up today, their boots are called Gription boots. And those could come with lights in them along with their chest plate. And then, of course, their costume is this really big coat with this big fur on their shoulders and things like that. I mean, how cool would that look on your shelf? And then, unlike most of the other clones and stormtroopers out there, their eye visor, I just learned this today too, their eye visor is sort of this yellowish orange color. So that would also look really cool sitting on a shelf. So, you know, especially if you guys look at these boots, I'll put a picture up here. They're so detailed, they're so cool. These would make an amazing Hot Toys figure. And like I said, you know, as cool as the Patrol Trooper looks, if I was gonna choose one trooper from this whole movie, it would definitely be the Range Trooper. Now, the Range Trooper might be my first choice, but we gotta remember, Hot Toys is a business. So what makes the most sense for them to be making if we're, you know, making a wish list here? And I'm shocked that they didn't make a Mimban Trooper. They showed it, but they didn't make it. And I can't help but feel that, you know, with Solo coming out and not getting the response that they want, they just decided that, you know, we shouldn't put too much into Solo collectibles out there. But we all know Hot Toys and Sideshow, one of the favorite things for them to do is to take something they've already made and repaint it and resell it to us, which is fine. You know, Star Wars does a lot of that in general, so what are they supposed to do? But if you have a Mimban Trooper, it's just a standard Stormtrooper with a whole lot of mud on it. I even actually think that the example that they showed kind of lacked the amount of mud that I think of when I think of a Mimban Trooper. And then of course they have sort of this cape over top of them, and then they have this extra shield on their helmet. And I'm actually looking to build one of these at some point. I already have the Stormtrooper helmet, and I have files for the 3D printing of that extra shield. So someday I will build my own Mimban Trooper, but I'm surprised that they haven't made one themselves. And when you think about it, it's a more unique figure than some of the variations that they've been making for the Mandalorian. So, you know, I think it's just got to be like right now that Solo heading, they're just seeing it as a little too toxic. But I think it would be something easy for them to make, even if they didn't make as many of them. And I think they would sell. I would at least be interested in one. I think it would look really cool next to my Solo Mud Trooper. Now there's something this list has been lacking completely, and it's inorganics. My choice would actually be L337 for my next one. This is a fantastic design. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is brilliant. If you haven't watched Fleabag or Killing Eve, both of those series are great, and she is largely responsible for both of them. And she's writing somewhat on the new Bond film, so definitely a person to watch if you haven't been watching her already. So for that reason, I'm a Phoebe Waller-Bridge fan, so I kind of like that for that point. But if you really look at L337, it's such a cool design. You know, there's R2 unit parts on there. There's all these different kind of scavenger parts, and you know, a lot of people complain about the politics in Star Wars. I'm a big politics person, so I actually like the politics in Star Wars in general. And the idea of droids fighting for their rights just has a lot of parallels with things that we've seen, you know, in our own world. So I like that theme. I like the headiness of that. So I like that character quite a bit. And this character would look amazing next to Lando. You might have to keep them a little far apart because we kind of know that her and Lando have some sort of relationship. Didn't seem to quite work out, and you know, I don't want to tempt Lando too much, but you know, L337 would look so cool on a shelf, especially if you had her and Lando next to one another. If you watched my last video, you're gonna know that I'm a huge fan of this next character, none other than the mighty Chewbacca. Guys, they made a Solo film, right? But when you think of Han Solo, it's Han Solo and Chewie, and I think they did a good job at, you know, giving us an origin story for their friendship with a whole lot more to tell. Make Solo 2 happen. And they didn't make a Chewbacca for it. So again, this is one of those things, kind of like the Mimban Trooper, where they showed us a version, but they never made it. I think if you make a Chewbacca hot toy, it's gonna sell. I think, you know, if you look at the secondary market for A New Hope Chewbacca, or the one from The Force Awakens, a lot of times those are selling for $300-400 a piece. I would love to have one in my collection someday, but I have no intention of paying that for them. So I can't help but feel if you had a Solo Chewbacca that people would buy it. You know, Chewbacca always looks great. It would not be an expensive piece for them to make because they've already made it. You know, you're talking about, you know, take your New Hope version of it, or the Force Awakens version. I don't really care. They're both really good. And you change out his weapon because he doesn't have the bowcaster in Solo. He has sort of this big rifle. You give him a different bandolier because he's got one that goes on both ways, and he has some different charges in there, ones that are actually fitting for that rifle. And then you're done. And you got yourself another Chewbacca that I think people would gladly pre-order and gladly pay for. So let's go back to our little imaginary collector's shelf and just, picture it for a moment. You have Chewbacca there, good stance to him. He's taller than all of your other Sideshow and Hot Toy figures. And then you have Han Solo from the Solo film right next to him. It's kind of funny when you think about it that the deluxe version comes with that big furry bodysuit of his, or a coat or whatever it is. So it'd be kind of funny if you have Chewbacca there, really furry, and then you kind of have this furry shelf because then your Han Solo's also really furry, sort of doing his best Chewbacca cosplay. So, it's just crazy to me that you could make a Solo film and have Han Solo, and you have the Han Solo collectible, and not make Chewbacca for him. So, Hot Toys, we know you already had the prototype out there. Please, just give us another Chewbacca. Just one more Chewbacca. Who doesn't want another Wookiee? All right, collectors, my absolute #1 top pick. Could you possibly ever guess what it could maybe be? As if there was maybe some kind of hint on the screen. If you guys have watched any of my videos, you know that I'm a big Enfys Nest fan. We covered this helmet both in my Make Solo 2 Happen Day kind of video, and of course it's in my general collection video posted on May 4th of this year. But Enfys Nest made a huge impact on me. I remember when the Solo film was coming out, we kind of heard about this character. We saw the early designs of this character, and this is just one of the coolest looking Star Wars characters of all time. And we've yet to get a real high-end collectible of her. There's some really cool things about her. It would be an instant pre-order for me, first of all. I love this character. I think it is, just design-wise, I work in design, so just design-wise, it just speaks to me so strongly. But the character itself is just super interesting. I love the whole Marauder group. I actually met Erin Kellyman at Star Wars Celebration. She was super charming. She was signing her little picture for me, and the ink ran out, and she had a friend there. And I don't know, she just seemed really cool, and she was charming. So I wish her all the success with her career, and I hope she comes back to Star Wars here soon. But just one of the coolest costumes I've ever seen come out of Star Wars. There's so many little details. There's actually a poem written on top of her helmet here, and the poem actually reads, until we reach the last edge, the last opening, the last star, and can go no higher. And it's just, that's such a cool detail to see in there. I love the fact that Enfys Nest is more of a, it's a mantle that is passed from one person to the other. She inherited it from her mother. I also love the fact that it's another badass woman in Star Wars. I don't know about you guys, but I have some badass women in my life, and they are my favorite type. But some of the cool accessories she would come with, she has this really cool fan wrist guard type thing that pops out. That would look so cool. And she has that Electro Ripper staff, which is also really neat. And one thing that Hot Toys and Sideshow have been doing recently are doing a few more vehicles. They just released a swoop bike for the Mandalorians, so why not get a swoop bike for Enfys Nest? So like I said, this would be an absolute instant pre-order for me. I'd be super stoked and excited. So hopefully Enfys Nest maybe shows up in Andor or shows up in a future Solo series spinoff, and we get to see more of Enfys Nest, more of Erin Kellyman, and then maybe we actually get a real shot at a Hot Toys. Collectors, this concludes my list of top Hot Toy figures that I would like to see made from the Solo series. What I'm super interested in hearing though is, did I miss anyone? There was a couple other ones that I thought about that I just thought were too far out there, but I would love to hear from you guys. Hop down in the comments, let me know what Hot Toy figures you would like to see, whether they're on my list or on their own list. If you like a video like this, be sure to give me a like. And if you want to follow along, be sure to subscribe because there are new videos here all the time. See ya.